Ant and Bee and the ABC. Ant and Bee and the ABC, written and illustrated by Angela Banner. This is the story of Ant and Bee. Once upon a time there was an ant. And once upon a time this ant did not know there was somebody in the world called Bee. Once upon a time this bee did not know there was somebody in the world called ant, because once upon a time ant and bee did not know about each other. This is the story of how they met. Once upon a time, Ant had a hat that was big. Once upon a time, Bee had a hat that was small. One day, Ant threw his hat away because it was big. And one day, Bee threw his hat away because it was small. And the hat that belonged to Ant and the hat that belonged to Bee whirled around in the wind till they bumped. Then the two hats got lost together. Then Ant was sorry he had no hat. So Ant went to look for his lost hat. Then Bee was sorry he had no hat. So Bee went to look for his lost hat. While Ant and Bee were looking for their lost hats, Ant and Bee bumped. At once, Ant liked Bee, and Bee liked Ant. Ant said Bee looked nice and yellow. Bee said Ant looked nice and red. Bee said he could give Ant a flying ride. Ant liked the flying ride. Bee liked giving Ant the flying ride. Ant was happy. Bee was happy. Then Ant and Bee talked about their lost hats. Bee said there was a place that had lost things saved in boxes. Lost things saved and put into a box like this. To the boxes. Then Ant and Bee said they must go and look in the boxes to see if their hats had been saved. Lost things saved in boxes. The first box of lost things was box A. Their lost hats were not in box A. What was in box A? A lost ark, lost aeroplane, lost apple. The next box of lost things was box B. Box B. Their lost hats were not in box B. What was in box B? A lost book, lost ball, lost bubbles. The next box of lost things was box C. Their lost hats were not in box C. What was in box C? A lost comb, a lost cushion, a lost caterpillar. The next box of lost things was box D. Their lost hats were not in box D. What was in box D? A lost deer, a lost doll, lost drum. The next box of lost things was box E. Their lost hats were not in box E. What was in box E? A lost envelope, a lost elephant, a lost easel. The next box of lost things was box F. Their lost hats were not in box F. What was in box F? A lost flag, a lost feather, a lost frog. The next box of lost things was box G. Their lost hats were not in box G. What was in box G? A lost giraffe, a lost gyroscope, a lost pair of glasses. The next box of lost things was box H. Their lost hats were not in box H. What was in box H? Lots of lost hats. The next box of lost things were box I. Their lost hats were not in box I. What was in box I? A lost iron, lost icing, even lost ink. The next box of lost things was box J. What was in box J? Their lost hats were not in box J. What was there? A lost joker, lost jellyfish, a lost jack-in-the-box. The next box of lost things was box K. Their lost hats were not in box K. What was in box K? Lost kite, lost knitting, and a lost kangaroo. The next box of lost things was box L. Their lost hats were not in box L. What was in box L? A lost lollipop, a lost lighthouse, a lost lamb. The next box of lost things was box M. Their lost hats were not in box M. What was in box M? A lost mirror, a lost mouse, a lost medal. The next box of lost things was box N. Their lost hats were not in box N. What was in box N? A lost nest, lost necklace, and lost needles. The next box of lost things was box O. Their lost hats were not in box O. What was in box O? A lost orange, a lost oar, a lost octopus. The next box of lost things was box P. Their lost hats were not in box P. What was in box P? A lost panda, a lost penguin, lost paint. The next box of lost things was box Q. Their lost hats were not in box Q. What was in box Q? Lots of lost queens. The next box of lost things was box R. Their lost hats were not in box R. What was in box R? Lost roller skates, lost robot, lost ribbon. The next box of lost things was box S. Their lost hats were not in box S. What was in box S? A lost swing, lost scales, lost seesaw. The next box of lost things was box T. Their lost hats were not in box T. What was in box T? A lost tiger, a lost trumpet, and a lost train. The next box of lost things was box U. Their lost hats were not in box U. What was in box U? Lots of lost umbrellas. The next box of lost things was box V. Their lost hats were not in box V. What was in box V? Lost vegetables, lost volcano, and lost vinegar. The next box of lost things was box W. Their lost hats were not in box W. What was in box W? A lost windmill, lost whistle, even a lost whale. The next box of lost things was box X. Their lost hats were not in box X. Nothing was in box X. The next box of lost things was box Y. Their lost hats were not in box Y. What was in box Y? Lost yarn, lost yellow yo-yo, lost yellow yacht. The next box of lost things was box Z. Their lost hats were not in box Z. What was in box Z? A zoo. The last box of lost things was box question mark. Oh my goodness, what is in that? All the things in this box looked funny. A lost, well, don't know what that is. It's a funny thing that had a net and an anchor and a ball. A lost whatever that is, and a lost something like this, and a lost something like that. Suddenly, Ant and Bee saw two lost hats. Where did they see their lost hats? Do you see them? On off. Oh my goodness, that's the hats. Ant and Bee had found their lost hats. Ant put his big hat on. Bee put his little hat on. Then they decided to switch. Oh my goodness, that looks much better. After Ant and Bee had changed their hats, they said they would be friends forever and ever. The end.